When Call of Duty released its blockbuster games, the Modern Warfare trilogy, Black Ops 1 and 2, Ghosts, critics dismissed them as escapist power fantasies. Yet, as years passed by and history unfolded, the lines between the game's fiction and reality began to blur. What once seemed implausible started to echo in headlines, raising unsettling questions about whether the games were reflecting or shaping our anxieties. Each key Call of Duty storyline draws from history, reimagining events that shaped our world and reflecting those anxieties back to us. Black Ops masterfully blends historical intrigue with conspiracy, as seen in its treatment of both real and fictional events. The inclusion of Manuel Noriega, a real-life Panamanian dictator deeply involved in drug trafficking and shadowy alliances, spotlights America's history of supporting and toppling foreign leaders to suit its interests. For years, the US both aided and betrayed Noriega, only to invade Panama in 1989 and capture him, blurring the line between fact and fiction and commenting on the murky ethics of international power. But Black Ops goes further, delving into the realm of mind control, sleeper agents, and the possibility of hidden hands shaping world history. Nor is this more chilling than in the game's implications surrounding the Kennedy assassination. By weaving the real-life specter of MKUltra, the CIA's notorious mind control experiments, into its narrative, Black Ops suggests that the most shocking moments in American history, such as President Kennedy's assassination, could be the result of covert psychological conditioning. Through the story of protagonist Alex Mason, whose memories and actions are manipulated by shadowy forces, the game dramatizes the paranoia and uncertainty of the Cold War era and invites players to imagine what might lie beneath the surface of official history. The implication is haunting. What if the unimaginable is not only possible, but orchestrated from within? False flag operations and manufactured enemies are another recurring theme. Modern Warfare 2's infamous No Russian mission, where a staged massacre triggers all-out war, echoes real-world incidents like Operation Northwoods and the Gulf of Tonkin, moments when deception pushed nations toward conflict. These stories force us to confront the dangers of misinformation and the catastrophic consequences of manipulated truth on the global stage. Proxy wars and insurgencies form the backbone of both Modern Warfare and Black Ops. Players land in Afghanistan or Central America, fighting shadow wars where superpowers arm local factions. In reality, the US and Russia have a long history of such struggles, from Vietnam and Afghanistan to Syria and Ukraine. The game reflects this cycle, showing how great powers wage indirect war, leaving devastation and shaping entire regions. The specter of a surveillance state and cyber warfare looms large, especially in Black Ops 2. Its plot, drones, hacking, automated violence once seemed fantastical, but now reads as prophecy. Today, government surveillance, leaks, drone strikes, and cyber attacks have become everyday realities. The game foresaw a future, now present, where digital warfare is as critical as boots-on-the-ground conflict. South American cartels and narco politics also appear, with Black Ops and Ghosts portraying drug lords as militarized threats. In reality, Mexican and Colombian cartels have destabilized nations, challenged state authority, and rivaled governments. By making cartel supervillains, the game taps into fears about the border, the war on drugs, and the blurry line between crime and politics. Finally, the fracturing of alliances and the rise of a multipolar world are constant undercurrents, especially in Modern Warfare. The games depict Europe and the Middle East as volatile, and alliances as fragile, much like today's world of NATO tensions, Brexit, and shifting regional powers. By weaving these themes together, Call of Duty becomes more than a series of blockbuster set pieces. It's a digital mirror held up to the chaos of our times. Did these games simply echo the anxieties of their time, or did they predict, and perhaps even shape, the world we now live in? In an era where headlines feel torn from these once fantastical stories, we're forced to ask, are we living in a future where life imitates art, where history and entertainment are increasingly intertwined? At its core, Call of Duty was written as a kind of modern propaganda. America is always the hero, the world is always on the brink of disaster, and the enemies are always familiar, echoing the real-world fears and prejudices of its audience. The games offered a comforting narrative in which good and evil were sharply defined, and victory was only a trigger pull away. But just beneath the surface of moral simplicity, the series began to ask more complex questions. As the franchise evolved, so too did its willingness to challenge the very myths on which it was built. But as the series progressed, it began to take risks. The writers asked uncomfortable questions. What if America were invaded? What if its own generals turned against it? What if its alliances fractured and new superpowers emerged in the ensuing chaos? These scenarios, which once belonged only to the realm of fantasy, now read more like breaking news than fiction. The unthinkable became thinkable, and the game's speculative futures began to feel prophetic. Take, for example, one of the central scenarios: Russia invades the US mainland. In Modern Warfare 2, players are thrust into street-to-street battles in America's suburbs, repelling an occupying force. It was a shocking reversal of the typical power dynamic, a vision of American vulnerability that felt outlandish at the time. Yet, as global tensions escalated, and the world watched Proxy Wars unfold and the specter of Russian aggression rise, the game's vision became less a flight of fancy and more a chilling what if. In reality, there was no invasion, but something equally destabilizing emerged: a new Cold War. The United States and Russia became locked in a proxy war in Ukraine, each side arming local proxies, spreading propaganda, and waging an information war that blurred truth and fiction. The battlefield wasn't American soil, but the stakes felt just as high. The digital age only intensified these conflicts, with hacking, misinformation, and cyber attacks shaping the front lines as much as tanks or soldiers ever could. The series' focus on American intervention in the Middle East echoed the real-world toppling of governments and the conduct of military invasions. The echoes were sometimes hauntingly close: the fall of Gaddafi, the drawn-out conflict in Syria, the hunt for Saddam Hussein. The games mirrored the chaos and the moral ambiguity of America's wars abroad, drawing inspiration from headlines and, in turn, feeding a stylized yet uncomfortably familiar version of world events back into the public consciousness. There's a grim irony, too, in the infamous all-gillied-up mission from Modern Warfare, set in the ghost city of Pripyat, Ukraine, a place that, decades later, would once again find itself at the center of a very real and brutal war. What was once the backdrop for digital heroics is now a symbol of real-world tragedy. The pixelated ruins became eerily prescient, foreshadowing the suffering and destruction that would one day return to that landscape. Once, the idea of civil war erupting within American borders was unthinkable, a scenario for dystopian fiction and video games. Today, it's openly discussed on cable news and debated across social media, a specter haunting the American imagination. The fear of internal collapse, once relegated to the realm of fiction, now simmers in the national consciousness, fueled by polarization and unrest. General Shepard's shocking betrayal in Modern Warfare 2 echoes real-world fears about rogue elements, deep-state conspiracies, and the potential for military coups. What was once a plot twist now mirrors anxieties festering in the national conversation. The sense that danger may come from within, that the trusted might become traitors, is no longer pure fantasy. In a bold narrative turn, Modern Warfare 2 even casts America as the villain, manipulated into war, committing atrocities, and losing its allies. It was a mirror held up to America's waning global influence and the fraying of its old alliances, a portrait of a superpower in decline. The game's willingness to question American innocence and invulnerability was both controversial and, in retrospect, remarkably prescient. The game's villains evolved with the times, once faceless terrorists, now the Chinese military and Latin American drug barons. These choices weren't random. They reflected real-world anxieties about rising global powers and the threat of transnational crime. By updating its antagonists, the series stayed eerily in step with shifting geopolitical fears, using fiction to process the anxiety simmering beneath the surface of world affairs. The war on drugs, too, took on a new dimension. Cartels are now so heavily militarized that they sometimes outgun local police and even national armies. The specter of narco warfare has become a force destabilizing entire regions, just as the games foretold. In both the digital and real world, the balance of power has shifted, and the distinction between state and criminal, ally and enemy, is more blurred than ever. Border tensions between Mexico and the United States have only grown. Mass migrations, border militarization, and the spread of chaos northward echo the themes explored in Black Ops, where violence and instability refuse to respect national boundaries. The border, once seen as a line of defense, now appears as a flashpoint for crises, with reality catching up to the fears portrayed in digital fiction. Meanwhile, in the real world, the United States and China are locked in a new kind of Cold War, one fought not just with armies, but with technology, trade, and relentless cyber attacks. The battlefield has shifted, but the tension is all too familiar. The global struggle for technological supremacy and information dominance, once the stuff of speculative fiction, has become a defining challenge of our era. Black Ops 2's once futuristic setting, drones ruling the skies, cyber warfare upending nations, information wars raging in the shadows, now reads like a summary of today's news. The future the game's imagined has, in many ways, already arrived. We live in the shadow of drone warfare, cyber attacks, and viral misinformation, in a world where the rules of conflict have been rewritten. In Ghosts, a unified Latin America, the Federation, led by Venezuela, rises as a global superpower and America's nemesis. The scenario seemed far-fetched, yet the seeds of such a shift are visible in today's geopolitical climate. Political alliances are shifting, new regional powers are emerging, and the old world order is slowly being rewritten. The fact that the main villain, Gabriel T. Rourke, is a former American Special Ops soldier who defected to the Federation. As things become more destabilized, this becomes more prophetic as time marches on. In reality, Venezuela and the United States have become staunch adversaries, with tensions between the two nations reaching a boiling point. The world stage now reflects the antagonism that the games once dramatized. Fiction and reality converge, each reinforcing the other's narrative. While Latin America hasn't unified under a single banner, the region is seeing the rise of powerful organized crime syndicates, shifting political alliances, and growing anti-US sentiment. The dynamics are complex, but the challenge to America's dominance is unmistakable, just as Ghosts predicted. The series' vision of a multipolar world, with power centers shifting and old alliances breaking, is no longer fiction, but fact. America's traditional dominance is being challenged from the South, a development the Ghost storyline eerily anticipated. The sense of security the nation once felt is now constantly questioned, replaced by a growing anxiety that is both lived and imagined. Even the traitors, the ultimate villains in these stories, are often American, a chilling reflection of growing mistrust within our own institutions and leadership. The enemy is not always the other, but sometimes ourselves, a reality that has become all too familiar in an age of internal division and suspicion. The games pose uncomfortable questions. What if America loses? What if the world moves on without it? What if the good guys aren't so good anymore? What happens when the narratives we once found comforting are revealed to be myths, and the lines between hero and villain, order and chaos, become hopelessly blurred? Today, America's traditional allies are looking elsewhere, its enemies are growing bolder, and its unity is fracturing. The global order is shifting, and the Call of Duty universe, once dismissed as bombastic fantasy, now mirrors a world in flux. Did Call of Duty warn us? Did it prepare us for these changes? Or did it simply reflect uncomfortable truths that we were unwilling to face at the time? Perhaps it did all three, serving as both prophecy and reflection, entertainment and warning. In the end, perhaps Call of Duty wasn't just selling us escapist fantasies, it was selling us previews of the world to come. The game's worlds were not just playgrounds for digital mayhem, but blueprints for the anxieties, conflicts, and shifting powers that define our present. The world, it seems, is catching up to the game. The stories we once played for thrills now echo in the corridors of power and in the fears of ordinary people. And as art becomes reality, one haunting question remains: who's really holding the controller now?